Our fourth reader today is Cindy Lynn Speer. Cindy Lynn Speer is the author of the best-selling The Chocolatier's Wife and several other novels, including her latest, The Key to All Things. When not writing, she's traveling or sword fighting. Cindy.
I am the queen of sometimes. Sometimes I'm a wife. Sometimes I'm a spy. It just depends on what day you catch me. There is a story that sits in the back of my head, and I remind myself of it every time I lie down to sleep. It is a story that recounts everything I had, everything I lost. It is not a story you know about war and love. You believe in the tale of Catherine of the Willows, a part fay who fell in love with Edward de Vere, captain of the king's guards. You're already nodding. You know the story like you know your own face in the mirror. It's been told you thousands of times. Catherine and Edward found love. They married despite their love being forbidden. And then, when the story should have ended with everyone being happy, the unthinkable happened. Catherine was chosen to take the faith throne. And with that came a terrible decision. She could keep her mundane life, her marriage, or she could sacrifice her identity and everything that she loved to become the queen of the Fae. She sacrificed, and as she rose, Edward fell. Tossed aside, he became the tragic hero. Here is the truth, if you would have it. There are 3 men who were like brothers, an inventor, a pirate, a romantic, warriors all. And there was a woman, Avriel, neither all Fae nor all human, and she lived between the worlds of the human and Fae courts. Avriel was the one who enchanted Avriel was the one who wed him. And everything should have been happily ever after of the stories, flowers and sunshine and perfection. So why don't you remember it this way? I don't know. No one remembers. They know the 3 men and the things they did. They sometimes remember the woman, me, Avriel, now a background character in a much grander story. But no one remembers the truth. In one brief moment, everything changed, and I don't know how or why. All I know is that Edward, my husband and the love of my life, does not remember who I am. But that's not as bad as it would seem, for you see, except for 3 blessed hours each day, from 9 until midnight, I don't remember him either. Or, to be more precise, I don't remember that he was once mine. He was just an attractive soldier who once was the captain of the king's guard, but now fallen from grace, and all I can do is hide in the shadows and long for him. Now we're going to skip ahead to chapter 5. A week passed before Avriel got a new note. Stay visible, that's what the note said. Avoid the dragon room, that's what it also said. The dragon room, where the last dragon egg sat, secure, our assurance that there'd never be a war with the Fae again. Avriel stopped at an intersection in the corridor. The left branch would take her to the kitchens, where she was contemplating charming some tea and treats from the cooks. The right led to the dragon room. She turned right. The corridor became a wide marble mezzanine that overlooked the entrance hall below. She ran her hand along the railing, looking down at the mosaic floor. Avriel's determined walk faltered when she entered the dragon room. The air here smelled bitter, wrong. Though the doors were wide open, no waves of heat greeted her. No guards stood watch. Her heart sank. Milady Avriel. She turned. Edward was walking up the stairs, hat in hand, the look of pleasure on his face fading as he saw her expression. What is it? What has come to pass? She gestured, palm up, toward the unguarded door. Stay here, he said, walking swiftly past her. I can't, she said, and followed him. Edward stopped abruptly, and she almost ran into him in the dim light. The room was darker than usual, it seemed, though she knew it wasn't true. The light still shone brightly down on where the egg once sat safely, but now the egg was tipped over, smashed. The sight filled her with such horror she could not bear to look closely. Edward seemed to have the same trouble looking anywhere but at the egg. I told you to stay back, Edward said, drawing her away with care. They will send their mages, and they will sweep the room for evidence of who did this. They will turn over every stone until they have found them, even if they have to murder a few innocent bystanders to do it. You do not want them to know you were here any more than I do. She allowed him to lead her to the door, where he stood for a moment listening. Come with me, she said, and grabbed his hand and pulled him down another corridor, thankfully still empty. Looking to make sure they were alone, she slid her hand over the wall, found the space that was slightly colder, and pushed. A crack appeared, and Edward pulled open the new doorway, following her inside. They shut it, and it clicked into place. Come, I know my way through these passages. Unfortunately, the best route also led to her bedroom. But it didn't matter. She had to get Edward away swiftly. I don't know they had passages here, Edward said. You pick a few things up when you're in the Queen's retinue. She gave him a shaky smile, which he did not return. She held his hand tighter, hoping he did not feel how much she was trembling. It wasn't romance this time, but terror. She didn't want to be the one to tell Baramis of this turn of events. The Sapphire Queen would not be well pleased either, and Avriel did not want to be the one she took her ire out on, even though she knew she was probably not the first target on that list. Unfortunately, there was a much readier one. The prince. What'll happen to him? He's her... She didn't want to say hostage, but how else could she possibly put it? The whole point of keeping the prince at the Fae Court all this time was a sort of collateral for the egg. Now the egg was gone, and what would the Fae do to Havelock? She remembered little of the prince, except he was a sweet young man with kind eyes and an easy laugh. They reached a turn and stopped. Her fingers brushed the wall, feeling for the little symbols that acted as directions. She tugged Edward's hand and took the right passage. How long do we have before the Fae learn what happened, she asked, already calculating. Not long, which is why we must rescue Prince Havelock at once. She turned, stepped close as she could, and whispered, Rescue? From the Sapphire Queen? Are you mad? No, I am desperate. He closed the measure of space between them so that his voice did not have far to carry. If the sweepers think that we had something to do with the eggs shattering, we are at risk of losing our lives. And furthermore, we're all at risk of war. Our kingdom needs us, milady, and I know subterfuge is not within your training or breeding. I know you'd be smart and resourceful. I admire your resolve, but I am unsure that breaking into the Sapphire Queen's palace will do much to help us avoid a war. She fell along the wall for the door to her chamber, pushed it open hard because a pile of Charlotte's things were in front of it, and peeked inside. No one. I think, Edward said, stepping over the colorful fabrics neatly, no matter the danger, the most important thing right now is to get the prince away from the Fae. They always said they would kill him if the egg came to harm. War or not, we can't allow that to happen. She shut the door. Yes, but isn't it awfully obvious? The prince disappears just when the egg is destroyed. They won't have to work hard to guess who did it. But the royals will be blameless, not to mention safe. I see. Your plan is to trade your life for the prince's. He'll live, and then they will kill you instead. He glared down at her. Heart in her throat, she glared back. He blinked first, ran his hand through his hair. Give me an alternative. What would you have me do? Offer your services to Chancellor Northrum. Northrum is no friend of mine. Nor are the Fae, she said. But he's smart and loyal. If your plan is a wise move, he will know. But don't do this alone. You don't know the consequences. If I go along, the consequences are mine alone. The Sapphire Queen will simply believe this is a weak attempt on my part to get back some of my honor. Is it? Avriel clasped her hands to keep herself from shaking him. He reached out and gently removed a smudge of dirt on her cheek with his thumb. I best go. I do not wish to cause you trouble should someone see me leave. You're as far away from the rest of the castle as humanly possible. I am not worried about me, he said gently. She looked over his shoulder at the mirror. No clockwork bird. The reflections were bright and clear. She brushed past him and turned the mirror down. I'm worried about us both. What can we do? Act normal. Listen, and we'll seek you out when I can. That's the plan? It's all the plan I feel you will approve of. And if you would like to find out who murdered that poor egg, and if Avriel and Edward get back together, please enter my contest. I'm giving away 2 PDFs. If you want a different format, we'll talk about later. And thank you all for listening. And I'm so honored to be surrounded by so many awesome people. And I'll shut up now. Thank you.